Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I'm joined by sex and intimacy coach Finn Deerhart and my best friend Matthew Thomas. And today we're talking about gay sex, and in particular, a world without fear. Because the only thing to fear is fear itself, that and the ginger root that Finn is about to stick up his ass.
Can we see it real quick?
I'll show you just the tip.
All right.
Oh wait, you peeled it.
Yeah.
Let's get started.
Oh.
It's been circumcised.
Himeros Live is sponsored by Himeros.tv. Created by Davey Wavey, Himeros.tv is a website that inspires the best gay sex of your life through explicit erotic videos. Himeros.tv films are designed by a team of gay sex experts for increased pleasure, deeper connections, and a whole lot more fun. Now, with 6 times more the ejaculations in 335% longer videos, join the revolution at himeros.tv/pod and save 20%. Himeros.tv, it's like porn,
but better.
Let's see, there you go.
Oh, still call and respond.
Yeah. Hey guys, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. You like that 6 times the ejaculations?
Did you calculate that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I quantified it.
It's a rough estimate.
Yeah. Because I mean, last year when we were making this content, it wasn't really a focus to have ejaculations in it, and we got a lot of feedback from people that they wanted to see more come.
Yeah.
So more.
And now it's our sole intent.
It's all it is. It's just all come all the time. So, any big news? Anything exciting that you guys did this week?
Right?
Yeah, I've just been in it doing a lot of work. I've been busy. I've had some really, really fun hot sex with my boyfriend though, so that's been very needed. Was it different than your usual sex? Yes, it actually was. We've been through like ups and downs with each other emotionally. Had some, what's called rupture and repair and the vulnerability cycle. And because of that, we just got to this new level of rawness, and we just really had some really fun hot sex that felt to me like kind of some of the moments that I used to have when I was like in the closet a long time ago and in like a public bathroom, maybe with a stranger. Just really fun watching each other jack off and in kind of a new way. It's been fun.
Yeah. That's what you sound like. Esther, what's her name? Esther Perel.
Oh God, thank you. Yes,
we're going to talk about her in a little bit, but yeah, in that podcast that you sent, she said she's like, relationships are a series of like connection and then disconnect and repair, right?
Totally.
So yeah, it's also really freeing to think of it that way, because I think there's a lot of pressure to think that like a relationship is always going to be on this high note, but that never happens for anyone in any relationship.
No. And it just, for me, I just get a lot of abandonment issues. So whenever we do have some kind of rupture, and we've been together for 3 years and we have a very peaceful relationship, but sometimes we've had some, major shit navigate. And recently we've had some of that. And it really has brought us closer together, because I think it's all about how you handle it when it's up, that determines what happens going forward.
Yeah, well, we don't really want to hear about your shit. So Matt, how's your?
Wow.
I'm kidding. Of course we do. But also, Matt, how was your week? What happened?
Nothing. I've got nothing to report. I'm just happy it's almost Friday.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm boring.
No, it's okay. We're used to it.
What's happening on Friday for you?
Wow. No, that's just as boring. That's just as boring. I've got nothing.
Are you doing some volunteer work this weekend?
No, I'm doing. It's Mother's Day on Sunday, so I have something planned for my mom. Saturday, I've got this like event I'm going to Saturday night. I've got nothing.
What Mother's Day? What are you doing for Mother's Day? What gift did you get your mom?
So I still haven't decided on the restaurant. I'm trying to decide between 3 different restaurants in Brooklyn, but I'm taking her to this this show in the city that I found. Remember the one that we were going to do around Christmas in Brooklyn? So they have another one called Queen of Hearts that is going on right now. And she wanted to see a play, but she kept saying, I want to see something that's different, a little racy. I'm like, well, girl, you don't know what you in for, but okay.
It's a burlesque show, right? Like it's there's nudity, isn't there?
I mean, there's like a tit here and there, but that's it. Like there's not like it's not like full blown everywhere. Like full blown nudity. It's nothing crazy, but she'll be into it. And plus, it's like it's in a small, like intimate setting. There are people swimming above you. Don't cut me off now.
No, I'm feeling it with you. I'm feeling it. She's gonna like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Baptist minister. She's gonna go to a burlesque show.
She sure is, and she's gonna love it and still love Jesus. Watch.
That's awesome.
In the Wavy household, we show our love and appreciation for each other through food. So I was gonna order my mom flowers, and I was like, she can't eat those. Like that's not fun. So I got her this like giant assortment of cheese from Murray's Cheese in New York. I picked out like all these different wedges for her. So she just got it in the mail and she's so excited. Nice. She's like, I'm never going to poop again. Because it makes her constipated. But enough about my mom's anal issues. Finn, are you still like in touch with your mom about like holiday stuff? Yeah.
I am. Yeah. I'm actually sending her. So I sent you those pictures a while back of me when I was like 23 playing the piano that was on fire.
Yeah.
Those just recently surfaced from the photographer that took them. So I had a print made, one of the prints of me actually playing the piano while it was burning. And my mom was with me on that day that we did that.
Okay.
And then the fire department came, we got in trouble. And my mom, it was just like a big deal because she'd never been in trouble with the law. And I made her an 8x10 print that I'm sending her and going to frame it and mat it and surprise her with it.
That's cute. Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so switching gears from moms to ejaculations, I have an update, which is I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but I had a relapse. So those of you who have been listening, you know that I've had this kind of commitment to myself that I'm not going to jerk off while watching porn.
Right.
I jerked off while watching porn once in the last week. It happened, and. I just like had this moment. I still have been watching porn. I just haven't been jerking off to it. So I generally watch it. I get excited, and I actually enjoy it a lot more because I find that I'm not just like fast forwarding to the shot. You know, I'm like actually, and of course I'm seeing it for Himeros stuff. But anyway, I saw this one video. It was just so fucking hot. And I was like, well, one time's not going to matter. So I totally did it. But to redeem myself, for the first time in my life, I jerked off while standing up. This is separately from the porn incident. Have you ever done that before?
Mm-hmm.
Have you done that, Matt?
Never.
So every time you jerk off, you're laying in the bed.
Absolutely. And yeah.
Have you ever tried to do it while standing up?
Yeah, and it's like really awkward.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
So neither one of you have jacked off with a guy like at a urinal before?
No.
Not even in college.
No. And if I had, I wouldn't have come. Like I don't think I could come from a glory hole for that reason because like I'm just so used to it. It would have to be like a horizontal glory hole that like, lowers on top of me,
like a table.
Yeah. So I was like really determined to do it. And Finn, I think last week you said something about like a sex coach or someone telling you to jerk off in all these different positions and angles and different hands. So I was like, come hell or high water, I'm going to fucking do this. So, and I couldn't watch porn while doing it, which would have been like my crutch. So I did it standing in front of the mirror. So I was like my own porn. So I jerked off to myself and it took a lot of effort. And I thought I was like getting close at one point and I felt like I was like orgasming, but then like no cum came out. and so I think I might have had like a full body orgasm.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because I like kind of folded in half, but like nothing came out. But I was
you kind of folded in half? What do you mean?
like my whole body just kind of like folded up as I was like feeling this like climax hit.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I didn't come. And I was like, for a second, I was maybe less horny, and then I was horny again. So I stood back up. I don't know why I'm sharing all like such intricate details, but then I finally came. And when I did, I made such a, like I came so much. So it was like massive.
Come on the mirror.
No, I was a couple of feet away from it. I came on my rug. I came on my hands. I came on my legs. I came everywhere but the mirror.
Yeah.
So that's my big news for this week, guys. So yeah, it was fun. Also, other thing is, gosh, it really sounds like I have a lot of free time. I've been having fun with like dom and sub play. I was telling Matt this. I think it's because it gives me like a sense of control when I have none in my personal life or in other areas. But I don't know if it just seems like I've attracted a bunch of guys that are very subby. So I've kind of done this thing on Grindr where it's like, all right, like if you want to be my sub, like you're going to call me daddy, and like you're going to like address me as sir if you're going to speak to me when I haven't spoken to you first. And like it's actually been really fun, and there's all these guys who just like get off by you bossing them around. So I'll tell them to like I'll send them off on like these tasks, almost like a scavenger hunt, and I'll be like, okay, I want you to do this, this, and this, and then they take pictures of themselves doing it. And they send it to me. So it could be like, I want to see you, take pictures, putting a butt plug up your ass. And they do that. And then I'm like, okay, now I want to see you like licking it, sucking it. So have you played with that? Like to any extent, like true, like stom dub stuff, like sir, daddy?
You're asking me or Matthew or both?
Open question, both.
I just a little bit. I have not as much as I want to. And not in really intentional ways typically, but I've been getting into that a little bit more recently myself. Yeah.
Does the dom side of it or the sub side of it appeal more to you?
Well, it depends on where I'm at myself emotionally. I will say that I feel a sense of power in being a sub more, because I think it kind of relates to like my whole life I've had to be, when I was starting as a little kid, like beat up a lot. There's like a sense of power there. Being dom, it challenges me more to like brush up against my own edges and learn how to express.
But I feel like in like, I don't want to say real life, but in like non-erotic life, like when I interact with you, like I think you have a dom energy, like just in general.
I feel that way sexually too, really, especially a lot in my fantasy mind. And, sometimes with my boyfriend, I feel really a lot like that. And that's what we've been playing with. But yeah. Yeah.
You could also see though, so like sexually, it might come more natural for you to be dom, but then maybe it's more balancing to be a sub. Like maybe, I don't know if this is true, but like my experience has been, I've heard this before, that like, especially guys that are in the military, like really love being subs.
Yeah. I think my opinion is that, and this is a joke, go ahead and name that, but when you're projecting a certain kind of hypermasculinity into the world that like projects like such a rigid type of dominance, I think that's an inverse maybe of what's happening on the inside. Yeah. And I've seen that to be true in my own experience a lot. So I think it's just like a lot more fluid than that, really. I think we all kind of have different expressions of that.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
I think that what you guys are saying is true. And I think that for me, if I had a choice, I would probably be more sub. But I think every time that I end up in a situation where someone tries to dominate me, I end up laughing. Like I can't take it seriously. I know that like some part of me is like into it because I do have a lot of control like in what I do. And there's something about being sub that does turn me on, but I don't know. It just in the moment, I'm like, I can't take you seriously. Like, you really can't dominate me.
Then you haven't found. I feel like you haven't found a good dom, because if my subs tried to pull that shit, I would say, I'm not talking to you till tomorrow, and they'd be like, no, sir, please. I want to talk to their ass for 24 hours.
That's awesome.
See, but that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I definitely would give more of it a try, though. I've been a dom to some degree, not to the point of like call me sir, but as far as like telling people things that I want them to do, yeah, send me this, do that, but never like the sir daddy thing, which is when you and I were talking about it yesterday. I was like, that's kind of interesting. Like, I wonder how I would feel about that, but
yeah.
I don't know.
The sir thing, it like makes it like I like it because it lets you both know that you're in that headspace. So it's like, okay, it's on, like we're doing it. And so like when they're sirring me and I'm, boying them, then like then we're at that place. And so there were 2 instances where 2 of these boys, men, said something to me about like I think one instance he was like, oh, I really want to do that to you or something. And I was like, I don't care what you fucking want. I'm not talking to you till tomorrow. And then the other one was he addressed me and didn't say sir. And so, yeah, so he got the silent treatment. So maybe you just need some training as a sub. You just need a good dom daddy out there to break you in a little bit.
Yeah, and I feel like
Anyway.
figuring out like your own authentic version of it. For me, that's been like, if I just were to borrow, what I've seen in porn, or to like, what I hear out there, not all of it will land. So just finding the authentic voice, and it's been what's been really helpful for me. And I think it's something. I love to practice the edges where I'm a little stuck. So definitely something I want to grow my capacity for. And one of my clients actually will come home from work, and while his husband's talking to him, he'll just like tie him up and leave him on the bed and go cook dinner or something. He does it all the time. He's like, my husband gets on my nerves. I just like tie him up and leave him in the bedroom with the door shut. And they play that way a lot.
Wow.
I know. I love it when I hear that shit, but I just haven't quite ventured fully into that space.
Yeah. Yeah. You do love to try new things though, Finn. And that's a perfect segue for our next topic, which is called figging, as in FIGGING. Because Finn is going to fig himself live on the podcast. So, Finn, where'd you find this article?
It was like a random article that, I think that maybe Jojo Bear posted it on Facebook. And he's like always posts really interesting articles from really, educational information to just what I feel is entertaining. And when I saw this article, the reason I decided to do this was because my first reaction was like, holy shit, people are so fucked up and blah, blah, blah. I had like all this like list of judgments going on about it. Like, I can't believe that this and that. And then I was like stopped to be like, what is my problem? What is my fucking problem? And like just, could catch myself in that. And it was like, I'm judging people. Why is that? Because I'm uncomfortable about it and just kind of couldn't really make sense. So I just decided that I would give it a try. And yeah.
So we're gonna do it. So for people listening that have no idea what figging is, this is from an article on Vice. The classic definition of figging, if you will, involves placing a piece of raw peeled ginger into someone's anus. So this has since been expanded to include vaginas and in some cases urethras. Also called gingering, figging creates a warm, tingling, or burning sensation that some people find erotic, intense, humiliating, or painful, but in an exciting way. If the ginger is intended for the ass, a finger will be peeled and carved into a butt plug shape, a finger of ginger they're talking about.
Yes.
That is, it is tapered at the insertion point with a wider flange at the end so that it won't get lost up there. The term fig likely comes from, here's like a French word that I'm not going to try to pronounce, which involves the practice of putting ginger in a horse's ass to make it carry its tail higher and make it appear more spirited. So it comes from a form of like animal cruelty.
Animal abuse, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see if Finn carries his tail. So what are you expecting? What's your motivation here? What's your intention?
Well, my motivation is because I feel like I take myself so seriously a lot. And I'm really trying to loosen up about that. And just, I mean, that's being reflected in my relationship. But just letting myself off the hook to be, experimental with this situation and not have a laundry list of judgments. And I feel like that makes me a better coach. So I also think it's interesting because this is, we think of Tantra a lot, I think collectively as just hands together, oming, eyes to eyes. But I kind of feel like this is a really good example of Tantra because it's experimental. It's going into my own judgments and shadow and exposing that. So I think it's
finding what's true for you. Maybe you like it, maybe you won't.
Maybe I'm gonna maybe this is my thing.
Matt looks like he's watching a horror film.
I'm not breathing. You don't even understand. I'm so nervous for you.
Well, and
are you using lube, by the way? You just
about that. So this is the surprise. So this is non-stick coconut oil, organic cooking spray. Because I wasn't gonna try. I thought how I'm gonna rub lube on this with my fingers and then have it on my laptop. So I'm gonna spray it and then.
Oh my god!
Yeah, all I need is some basil and then be like pad kimao.
Is your boyfriend around to help if this goes?
He's not. But he was worried that this might make me unfuckable. So we'll see. I don't know. It might make it fun.
Unfuckable. They said it's supposed to be very temporary. It could last for 20 minutes at the most.
Well, hopefully, yeah. And if it gets unbearable, I'll take it out. But.
Okay, so keep in mind that we're live on YouTube. So
yeah, I'm not gonna lift my ass anywhere. It's hanging out the back of my chair.
Okay, hanging out the back of the chair.
Spraying it with.
Can we see it before you?
Did you have this in your house, or did you purposely go out to purchase?
No,
this?
I had this in my house. And okay, this is my first virginal figging experience.
Tell us what you're feeling and what's happening.
Well, it's actually cool on the surface, which is nice. There's very little resistance. Oh
my god!
I know. It actually, I haven't felt the warmth yet, but I do just like the contact in my butthole, so that's nice.
Okay.
Okay, so it's in.
Okay. Is there any secondary sensation now other than the pressure?
Not yet, but it's just cool. It's nice. I haven't had something cool at my ass, I don't think, in a while.
Like temperature cool.
Right, and super cool. Okay, so it's in there, and I'll keep you posted about what happens.
Okay. Yeah. Feel free to chime in.
It's a little tingly. It is.
Already?
Yeah.
Tingly in the sense of, is it spearmint gum? What is the...
Yeah. Spearmint gum. A nice, cool breath mint for my sphincter.
All right.
I feel so open-minded.
Now, for people who are listening at home, if you do try this, make sure that you do what Finn does and carve it into a butt plug shape so that it doesn't just get pulled up into your butt. Because then that can be an issue. I mean, I think eventually you'd poop it out, but
right. No, I definitely left a nice little knob on the end, and I entertained the idea of a string, but I carved it in a great shape. So
string, it's a tampon.
I know. It is tingly though. It's nice. When I was in high school, one of my friends taught me to put Gold Bond medicated powder in my nutsack. It's a similar kind of thing, like a warm, tingly, spreading sensation.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the sensation at right now?
It's like a really an Altoid.
Okay, so on 1 to 10.
Where we're going. I don't know though. What if the 10 is the 2 in about 10 minutes?
10 would be unbearable for you. So what is it now?
This is probably a 3 or 4.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, a 3. I'd say a 3.
Is it getting warm or is it still cool?
Yeah, okay. It's warm and it's kind of spreading around.
Okay.
I like it.
So while that happens, while Finn is marinating, let's talk about Esther Perel. So Finn sent a a podcast link to me last week, and then I sent it to Chad, I sent it to Matt. It's from Armchair Expert, so you guys can search for it if you want to find it. So we all listen to. What are you at? What number are you at?
I'm good. I'm at like a 5 probably. It's
Okay.
It's a little hot.
At what point do you think you'll probably remove it?
I don't know. I mean, it's not bad. I like it. I do. Yeah, it's like warm. It's not like hot, as in I can't tolerate it, but it is making my voice shake a little bit. So.
Is it like, are you getting aroused from having it in there?
Well, a little bit. Yeah.
Huh.
It kind of, I can feel it in the base of my nuts too.
Are you hard?
No, it's not. It's more like, just, I don't know that I could get hard right now.
I am.
I feel a little sweaty though.
So in the podcast, Esther, who Finn, you're obsessed with, you love her, one of your favorites. Actually, as a side note, you have a quote of hers in one of our Himeros videos. The video starts with, it's the video that shows like cruising in a car at night, and the quote was something like, "What? Sex is something that happens.
Sex is something that is not something that you do. It's a place that you go inside yourself with another or others."
And now, if you ever, say, hypothetically saw Esther in person, would you look her in the eyes and tell her that?
I do know that I did.
Yeah, you did. You did.
I did. I met her in New York at her conference last November, and I told her I was really excited to tell her about it. And she looked like she was entertained by it.
Yeah.
She said, "Which quote is it?" And I quoted it to her, and she just smiled at me really big. She had a little twinkle in the eye.
Yeah, I mean, she's like a world-renowned like sex therapist, and so that's pretty incredible. So in the podcast, there's a lot of things that are interesting. I pulled out a few here. If you guys have other things to share, that's great. One thing that I found really interesting was her talking about unrealistic expectations around partners.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying like all the roles that we expect a partner to fill in our lives, like to be, I don't remember what the list was, but she rattled through. It was like best friend, lover, confidant, your romantic partner, your financial planner, your someone to raise children, to give us a sense of adventure, to travel with, like this whole list of things that we expect from this one person, and like all the pressure that puts on them and ourselves, and how unrealistic it is to find that in one person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And how that's just like this automatic assumption that we end up, I think, inheriting around relationships. I know I've had to, I mean, that's kind of like some of these waves me and my partner been going through, is me having to let go of some of these illusions in a way. I think that every relationship brings us to that point at some point down the line if it keeps deepening.
Yeah. I really liked how she talked about the way that the idea of marriage and what a partner should be has evolved over time. You know, initially it was about marrying for money, and the only time that you could find love was when you stepped out on your marriage. Mm-hmm. And then looking at where we're at today, to Dave's point of all that we expect this one person to be, and yet we don't even have our own shit together. But we expect them to have all of their shit together and help us with all of our shit at the same time. Right. It's not the most realistic thing. And then she was talking about what we learned in schools and growing up. Like, if we're lucky, we have both of our parents and we can see a good, loving relationship. A lot of us don't have that. So where are we learning about relationships? Mm-hmm. We're not. We're going out, we're having sex, we're meeting people, and then all of a sudden we're making a decision to say, I pick you. I want to be with you. And we have no tools at all.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the evolution thing I thought was really interesting about how marriage has evolved, because you're right. Like she was saying, way back in the day, it was about money. It was about property. Like that's why you got married. And then it became about family. And it was like, you got married to have kids. It wasn't, about love or sex. Like that's where you'd go you'd have that with your mistress. You'd have your affairs. Even in the 60s, like, I mean, if you watch Mad Men or any of the shows that are set back then, or when you look at like presidential history, like it was just common knowledge that all these people had lovers and mistresses, and like no one, it wasn't about that. So it didn't really matter. And now we make marriage about love. And that's new, but also that marriage has always evolved and relationships have always evolved. Like it's going to continue to evolve. I think like I have a tendency to sit where I'm at and be like, okay, this is marriage and love and relationship. Like it's all this very like concrete thing that exists now as it has forever. And that's not true. And it gives you, I think, a sense of freedom if like what you want out of a marriage or what you want out of a relationship isn't that, because it's an arbitrary like definition anyway that has changed and will continue to change. So I think it takes some like pressure away from feeling like you have to adhere to that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And especially being gay men, where I feel, this is my opinion around this, because I hear a lot of, depending on the generation with which, the person that I'm talking to, marriage has a different connotation with some gay men. Some gay men perceive it to be a heteronormative, function of society exclusively. Some see it as like a civil way to buy respect. Some people, they really mean they want to be married. I really do romanticize marriage. So everyone's got like kind of a different understanding of what that is. But just collectively being gay guys, we don't have a sense of belonging in the culture as a whole around relationships. So that puts us in an advantage to be able to create relationships a little more effectively.
Yeah. How's your ass doing?
It's like a 6 or 7, and I have to say it's kind of like I'm having this, it's almost like an involuntary like twitching kind of feeling going on.
They said that
it's a little unnerving.
If you clench, it's supposed to heighten. Yeah, and you might be involuntarily clenching.
I am, and it's a little uncomfortable, but it's also I'm trying not to just like hyper focus on it.
Are you gonna remove it, do you think? Or are you still good?
I'm good right now. I'm good. I'm kind of curious to see where this goes. It kind of feels like it's plateaued,
Okay.
Also, I'm really engaged in this conversation.
Did you douche before you did this?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Didn't douche.
Well, you don't have to show us the ginger after.
Right. Or like ass to mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna cook with it for dinner.
I am.
That's like something I completely don't doubt that you would do.
Well,
Sam would love that, right? Like, I mean, you could wash it off, obviously, but like,
right. I think he might find it to be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that if you cooked a dinner with the ginger that was up your hole, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's stuff, we do stuff like that sometimes. So,
I also liked how Esther talked about monogamy, and she was like, "Well, what is monogamy anyway? Like, right now we define monogamy as like having sex with like dozens and dozens and dozens of people, and then picking one, and then having sex with no one else ever again. That like the Tinder dating that so many of us do." Right. That's not how monogamy has always been defined. I mean, I think like probably even in my parents' generation, there's a lot of women and men who like have had sex with one, maybe two people in their life, like that's not how it worked back then. She also was like, well, and like, is your memory monogamous? Like, so if you think your relationship is monogamous, all right, well, like, let's dig into that, because in your mind, like, don't you remember instances where you're having sex with other people? Like, that's non-monogamy. Your imagination isn't monogamous when you're watching porn. Like, is kissing someone, is oral sex, like it's just this it's not this like black and white thing. We don't live in a black and white. I admire people who think that the world is like black and white, top and bottom, like it's just not how things are.
No. And I don't say that I admire them myself, because I kind of feel like
it just must be so simple for those people. Like that's so, I think that
it can be numb too.
Yeah. Anything else that you guys got from the podcast?
Well, what you were saying, I love that aspect too, and like how she describes, like it's on it, and one of the things I've always loved about what she talks about with monogamy, and I use this in coaching all the time with guys, is I think that in the gay community, there's a big pressure on men to be open by default, and that, like, again, that's like what is open. You know, it kind of fluctuates for people, and monogamy is on a continuum all the way to, you know, to the far end of permission. So it's really on us as couples to, in thruples and whatever kind of arrangement you have, to negotiate needs and wants, and it kind of raises the bar on communication rather than just assume stuff. And when we do assume things, I think it really puts us in a position where we end up getting hurt more than if we just open up and communicate with each other about what we want and what we need. And it makes things a lot more flexible than if we just assume, or if we just pick a title and just kind of act according to the pressure in any direction.
I think the assumption of openness is probably, that you're speaking about in gay men, is probably more like a San Francisco thing, like the circles that you travel, because they, like, a lot of the gay men that I encounter, maybe outside of like Palm Springs, like they, and especially younger gay guys, like they are not thinking in terms of open relations. I don't know. Has that been your experience, Matt? Like, what are the gay people that you encounter like?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't met very many people that are into open relationships. I think, but I would say that the times that it's always been with older couples. Never with anyone that's like teens, 20s. Teens are a little low. But no, never.
At the playground,
Exactly,
right? Boys.
No, but you know, like it's funny. Like I know people who will say, "Oh well, they will play together with someone else." I think that is more common to find of all different age groups than to actually find an open relationship in the sense of I can go out by myself outside of my relationship and sleep with someone else. I find more often than I think that couples are doing it together and inviting a third.
Even that, though, I find that couples are usually still pretty guarded about, like, it may be possible. I think there's a very high likelihood that there's a lot more people in open relationships than talk about it. And this is something that has always grinded my gears. I'm going to make a YouTube video about this at some point. Like the high profile gay people that I know that are in couples, like it's open relationships, but just publicly, because they want to be more marketable, they pretend otherwise. And I think it's just such a lost opportunity. I get that they're not trying to educate the masses, but I would have loved, when I was a 14-year-old gay boy, to look up to other gay men and see healthy examples of open relationships that were loving and supportive, and know that it was an option for myself, rather than to try to fit into this monogamous box and feel like I'm failing completely. So anything else that you guys got from the podcast?
I just found it to be an amazing podcast. Yeah, I want to listen to it again, because it has a lot of insight about relationships in general too. So
2 hours and 20 minutes.
Was it really? Yeah. I think one more thought about the relationship assumption. Like, maybe it's true because of it being in San Francisco. I feel like I have heard a lot of men emphasize it in a way where it's like the most evolved option to choose. And I always just tell people that the most evolved option that you could choose is to, like, honor your truth and to remain flexible and open. And I think, like, for my own self, like I open and close more, you know, it's like a fluctuation. It's not like this is who I am and this is what my relationship is like. And it kind of depends on what's going on. And I think we just need to stay open to, you know, what's arising and communicating with our partners, because everything is much more fluid.
You know, I'm going to make a YouTube video, I think in the next week or so, about like either myths about monogamy or myths about open relationships or something. And I was doing some research to see if I had made any videos on the topic before, and to see what I had said. And I made this video like 10 years ago, and it was titled, "Is an Open Relationship Right for You?" And it was pretty stupid, but I said in it, I was like, I don't know if an open relationship is right for you, but like, I do know that an honest relationship is probably right for you. And I am guilty of falling into the trap of thinking that, yes, the most evolved relationship is an open relationship. But I think what's really important at the end of the day is an honest relationship, that you're honest with your partner and each other about what you want and you're on the same page. I think I tend to see that less often in monogamous, quote unquote, monogamous relationships, which often really aren't. They're still like sexting and secretly grinding and all that shit.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears and talk about today's video, which is titled "A World Without Fear," and it features Caden Gray alongside Bishop Black and Chris Blent. The video opens with Caden talking about his experience being HIV positive and undetectable, which I think is probably interesting for people that are like logging onto the site, you know, their dick in hand, ready to jerk off and blow a load, and they're confronted by this video. And you know, he's sharing his story, but he's also jerking off, and he's like stroking his big fat cock, which is beautiful. And Caden has done a lot in addition to being a porn star or a model, he also does a lot with the U=U campaign. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we created this video, but just a few key points, I think, so people can understand this at home. A person who's living with HIV is considered to have an undetectable viral load when their treatment that they're on has brought the level of the virus in their body to such low levels that the blood test can't detect it. So we say undetectable a lot. This is what it means. Like, this is kind of just defining the term for you. And the second point is there's no risk of passing HIV on if your doctor has confirmed that you are undetectable. You know, you can continue taking your treatment and you know, attend regular viral load monitoring appointments, but undetectable means untransmittable. So that's where U=U comes from. Undetectable equals untransmittable. And being undetectable isn't a constant state, so you have to keep taking your medication, otherwise your viral load could go back up. So we created this video, because it's super hot. I think everyone enjoys seeing Caden naked. 2, I think it's an opportunity to educate people about U=U, because there's still a lot of misconceptions and stigma. And 3, like, the big reason was to show gay men what a world without fear might look like. So to that end, in the video, Caden comes and he talks about being HIV positive and undetectable. The other models are negative, and they play with his cum, they eat it, they anoint themselves and him with it, they rub it around, like they lick his dick after he comes. His cum isn't seen as a conduit for death and disease. It's something that they don't interact with him with fear. They live in a world without it, and that's kind of the point of the video. So, boom.
Yeah. This was fantastic. This was absolutely fantastic, and I hope that people see this and people share it. I think more needs to come with this video. It was 7 minutes long. I mean, that's another reason why I personally love it. It was another 15-20 minute video. No shade, but I love that. But I think that the whole point was summed up literally in the first minute and a half. You already knew, like, oh my gosh, wow. And I loved it. And then I also wanted to know who was the guy that had his ass up in the air through the whole video too.
Yeah. We put that in there just for you, Matt.
Exactly. No, but honestly, it was a phenomenal video. I just thought it was amazing.
Wow. I don't think you've ever given that sort of excitement.
Because people don't know. Like, if people go look on Grindr or whatever, they're looking for sex and they see that somebody is undetectable, they think that it means AIDS. They think it means that they're going to get something. And literally in 7 minutes, you summed it up that, one, you're not going to get it. There's nothing to worry about. It was educational. It was hot. And it was at the same time like celebrating people who do happen to be positive. When do we ever see any content like that anywhere?
Yeah, and it's not even just saying it was doing it. The other models did it.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. I mean, there is a lot of stigma still and misinformation. And when they showed up to do our shoot, we're going through the different video concepts. they didn't know the details of each shoot. And when we were like, look, like interact with his cum in whatever way feels authentic for you. We're not going to pressure them to eat his cum if it's something that they're still like, here's the information. If they still don't choose to believe it, or they still have their own stigma, and look, like maybe them interacting with it is just touching it, you know, like that's enough. But these models were really like, nope, we get it. We understand the information. Like, we're educated on this. And they were just slurping it down, tasting that cum, licking it, eating it up, like licking an ice cream cone.
Mm-hmm.
I've read stats a lot that say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that you're more likely, if you live in a fear and a stigma around it, you're more likely to contract HIV from someone who is very sexually active, doesn't know his status, than someone who's undetectable. So, but I know that there's this remaining stigma in a lot of people's minds around having HIV, but it's, and for some reason, and I've been in this boat in my life too, in the past, where I was just so afraid of hearing the word, you know, that I would automatically put up a wall instead of just really thinking about the truth of those stats, you know?
There was just a study that came out like what's today? The 9th, I think it came out on like May 3rd, that it was like yet another study of men that were undetectable, which again proved there was 0 transmissions. It's not like it's a low risk. It's no risk. It's 0 risk. And you're right. The risk is someone that says, you know, I'm negative, and like maybe they haven't been tested for 3 months or 6 months or whatever. And yeah, and they come in your ass, or you do whatever, and like that's where the risk is. Like, it's if someone's undetectable and they're actively on treatment, like to me, someone can present you with all these scientific studies, and if you, after reading all that and looking at that, still won't do it, it's hard for me not to draw. I get frustrated with it because it almost to me feels like this like post-truth world that we live in. Like, facts don't matter. Like, oh, actually, like, you know, like climate change isn't real, or the earth is flat, or like, you know, Donald Trump can make up his own reality. Like, that there's, to me, it's just like, no, like there is such a thing as science and fact. And when someone presents you with that, you have to make an informed decision on it. Yeah. and not create your own truth. And that's what I find really frustrating, and just connecting those dots.
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, to me, it's a symptom of a bigger issue with people. You know, like it's a fear. You know, they have fear, and underneath that, usually can be traced down to some kind of shame. So, you know, the more shame you carry, the more reasons you see to freak out about who you really are. I think it has to do with more around that. And there's another fact. I feel like it's involuntary. I can't even like clench my ass anymore. I'm going to have to take this out. I'm going to have to take out the fig ginger.
I totally forgot you even had it.
I forgot too.
See, I didn't forget. I have been unable to concentrate fully on the conversation because it's been getting to like an 8-9 in heat.
Okay.
But I have to say, I like the overall experience.
Okay, good for you. Yeah, I really admire your sense of adventurous spirit.
Thank you. I think, you know, for me, it just teaches me to, you know, not have judgments about something that I see in an article just automatically.
Matt, next week, what are you going to put up your ass next week?
Whatever you put up your ass. Actually, that's still not fair.
Yeah, because I will absolutely put something on my ass.
Will.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's think about it. Maybe I will do something.
Okay. Well, see, I'm in the afterglow right now. It's like less intense because it's gone, and I actually like this sensation even better.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
You should get fucked in the afterglow.
I know.
With like the tingling happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay.
It's like getting there's toothpaste, you know, still in someone's mouth or something.
Those lucky horses, I'll tell you. So back to the video. Like, I also want to make the point that this fear that gay men have around STDs and HIV and sex, like, it's not unfounded. And like, we know like, you know, gay men that were alive in the 80s and 90s, in many instances, like, buried dozens of their friends during the AIDS epidemic. So I think that trauma and that mentality is something that we still carry, but we have to recognize that treatments are different now. Guys can be undetectable. You can go on PrEP, and this video, in addition to educating people, is an opportunity to shed some of that fear. And I know for myself, I made a YouTube video this week on my second channel, Davey Wavey Raw, talking about PrEP, which I haven't really talked about before. And I've been on PrEP for like 4 or 5 years. Like I've been on PrEP pretty much since the beginning. And the way that it changed my life the most was that it allowed me to shed some of that fear, because I was protecting myself in kind of this, in a different way, to shed some of that fear that I was carrying around. And I didn't realize how much fear I had until it was suddenly lifted to some extent. So I think that there's something very fucked up that happens to gay men when we simultaneously crave gay sex and fear it at the same time. That like I don't know what that does to you mentally, but I don't think it can be good. And I know that there's obviously there's still other STDs. Like PrEP doesn't prevent you from getting gonorrhea. If you get gonorrhea, you can get treated. I know there's like super gonorrhea, and you know what? Like it's a risk. It's a risk that I'm willing to take. I think I ride my bike even though I can get hit by a car. Like you need to live your life and do the things that make you happy and give you meaning and connection. And for me, like gay sex does that. And I'm not gonna fear it like that. I'm done.
Amen.
Period.
I agree with you. And also too, I've raised this and I have deal with this in coaching sometimes, is this idea of like, if someone's fear is, greater than their capacity to act in alignment with where they want their boundaries to be, well, then that's like an issue of one's own, boundary making and honoring one's own self. And it's like, people that are feeling really good in general about who they are sexually and are making calculated risks, like you just said, there's not like a big fear going on. It's like, here's what the risk is for that. Do I want to do that? Yes or no? It's less of a, oh my God, I did this and this and this and this and this, and now I can't be, okay with myself, and then projecting a lot of fear into the experience. Does that make sense? It's like, just really being in touch with one's own boundaries, where those lie for you.
Any other thoughts, Matt?
No, I think we hit all the points, and I think that it's important, regardless of who you're sleeping with, just remember to protect yourself. Like, just as much as someone claims to be undetectable, they could be lying to you too. I've heard stories about people lying about their status, and that puts people in a position where they end up catching something too. But then I think that there is this fear that we have around HIV, and to your point again, we forget about everything else. We forget about the gonorrhea, the herpes, the warts, everything else out there. All we think is HIV. There's other things to worry about. So above all, like, make smart decisions and protect yourself.
And I'm not, like, I know those other things are out there, but like, I'm also making a decision to, like, I will make as smart decisions as I can, given the risks, that it's like always kind of a balancing act, but I'm not going to let fear dictate my sex life. Like that's kind of where I'm at. So we have probably enough time for at least one of these questions here. If you guys do want to see a preview of the video, you won't be able to hear Caden's story, but you can watch a preview of it on Himeros.tv. It's called The World Without Fear. If you want to see the full video, the first video that gets 2 thumbs up from Matthew Thomas, then you have to become a member for that. So Himeros.tv/pod to join. All right. If you guys have questions, send them to Davey at daveywavey.tv. I think we'll just do one of these today. Question number 1 says, I have a fetish for gay for pay models. If I know a guy is straight, then why do I find it hotter? Is this indicative of a deeper psychological issue? Am I only attracted to men who will never love me back as a way to subconsciously realize that I'm undeserving of love? I think that's where it's supposed to go. Well, that took a turn.
It's a great question, though.
It is a good question, and that is something that you see, that like if a guy is straight, it's like considered even hotter, right? That there's this like whole other layer to it. So is it indicative of a deeper psychological issue? Finn, you're the expert here.
Well, I would say, here's the thing. When I hear a deeper psychological issue, my first move is to say, you don't have an issue. This is not an issue.
Yes, he does.
I don't. You have a problem. No, this isn't an issue because I mean your erotic mind. What we like I say, like what we do with our bodies isn't always who we are erotically, and really, if we just our erotic mind is not going to unveil itself to judgment, even if it's within our own selves. So I would be curious about it. I think all fantasy is indicative of one's own psychological, like associations with those things. So it kind of depends. Like the writer of this question, I don't know what you think or what kind of associations you have about straight men and, like what kind of characteristics you imbue them with or that you assume them to have. But a great place to start with any fantasy, this one included, would to be like, in the presence of this object that I'm talking about, I feel what? And if we don't have if you're not used to like thinking of fantasy in that way, it can take a little bit of time to kind of figure out like, what am I actually feeling? So if you're feeling like, oh, I feel really degraded and I feel that, versus like, I don't know, it kind of depends, but I would start with how you feel, and it could mean so many different things. But I do think thematically, there is something to consider about, the kind of guys that maybe mistreated us a lot as gay guys, the kind of guys that we might assume are to be more, carrying more cultural capital, like masculinity, or, just kind of those themes in general.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, is it about masculinity? Like there is a hierarchy in the gay world for a lot of people, which they really like elevate. The more masculine you are, the better you are. There's this
right,
and that like a straight guy is the epitome of that, right? So like he's really put on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that what it's really about? Is this really about masculinity that you crave? And if so, like, there's something there to kind of dive into with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a really interesting entry point. But yeah, it's a juicy. Any thoughts, Matt?
No, well, I'm actually trying to apply it to myself because I am really into more effeminate guys more often than not. The guys that are like super masculine for me actually turn me off. I'm just not interested.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about where does that come from? I have more thinking to do, but yeah, I wonder if there maybe is some truth to what you're saying. I think there is.
Mm-hmm. I hear that a lot. It's a super, super common thing. Gay for pay are also just like straight guys being like this really fetishized thing. My personal opinion, aside from what I just offered a second ago, my personal opinion is that it does have to do with themes around masculinity, and it could suggest something around like where you think you fall in the spectrum of that. But again, that doesn't have to be an issue, because even like we were talking earlier about being a sub, sometimes being a sub is about, really bringing a sense of power to a place that maybe one feels powerless, and really dramatizing these themes in a way that are fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I was younger, I think I would have fallen into this category of thinking if a guy was straight, that was hotter to me. I think as I've gotten older, and as I've celebrated myself more and like embraced my own femininity, and that desire for straight guys has really fallen off. And for me, actually, now at this point in my life, it's like the sex that I want is good sex. And if you're not into it, like it's not going to be good sex. Like why on God's green earth would I want to have sex with a straight boy who's not into it with me? Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's not going to be good, fulfilling, fun sex. That's going to be horrible. And but that's something that has evolved for me over time as I've become more comfortable with myself and my own femininity. So maybe at least for my own journey, I think that's what I would say is it was reflective of that. So
there is sometimes a dynamic though, the seeking power, for instance, a lot of there's a lot of eroticism in like the idea of seducing one away from like, I'm so special. I'm so sexy that I pulled you away from your identity that, that hates me, and you did something with me that can be like a charge for someone, so if that's the direction it's taking, it could be about Feeling special.
All right. So we're going to save these other questions for next week since we're coming up on the top of the hour. Next week, it's probably, I don't know, this is one of my favorite videos. It's called Play Party. And if you like cum, Lord Jesus, there's going to be a lot of cum in this video. So Finn, where can people find more of you?
FinnDeerhart.com. FINNDEERHART.com.
And if you want more of Matt, same time, same place next week.
That's right.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for everyone listening at home. And as always, more to come.